How'd you hear about it?
Because I thought
We just like to know what works and what doesn't.
we gotta.
I know some people got it from Wolf Whistle.
Somebody that had been to one of our classes, we have started. Yes, are the only ones that their information is shared. Okay, well, it's good to see you all today. We have a very good crowd of people here, and Sandy, our guru in all things economic development, is going to be talking to you today about how to Airbnb. Before I turn this over to Sandy, I want to tell you all something that you probably need to know. The town and the county collect lodging tax. And even though the county doesn't require a business license, you still have to report your lodging tax to them. And so they have different zones. We have some information about economic development, who to contact on our front page of our website, vhsbi.com. So make sure that you, if you're in the county, you contact the county, and if you're in the town of Abingdon, you contact the folks at the town of Abingdon. I can help you make those contacts. But make sure that you comply with their lodging tax rules so that you don't get this started and then, you know, find yourself in trouble.
Is the lady that was Abingdon?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if Glade has a lodging tax. I do know that the county has a lodging tax. And so, you know, it has to do with zoning. And so I'd be afraid to tell you quite the answer, but I can tell you who to contact. Okay? Okay. Without further ado, our own Sandy Ratliff.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. I'm Sandy Ratliff. I will be your cruise director for this afternoon for the next, 3 hours? Hour and a half. But thanks, first of all, for taking time out of your busy schedules to come today. This is our first on our, starting our 6th year of doing the new knowledge sessions. So for you new folks, you've missed a whole lot of sessions over the years, but never fear. If you go to YouTube, we actually have a YouTube channel where we archive those. Just so you know, we are streaming these workshops and archiving those up on YouTube. So just go to YouTube and search for New Knowledge, and you will see probably over 100 plus workshops that's been going on since 2015. That's when we started streaming those. Everything from how do you set up QuickBooks, lots of social media marketing. We even had a customer service workshop. Our very own guru in the back there did that a couple of weeks ago. So there's a lot of content out there that's available for you. And this is a collaboration between Virginia Community Capital, who pays my salary, the incubator here, and the Washington County Chamber of Commerce. And I'm proud to be a part of this program. This is probably one of the longest running and most consistent programs in the state of Virginia, and I don't know anything in East Tennessee and any of the contiguous states that's doing this as frequent as we're doing it, offering it for free, which is always good, and also streaming those. So if you miss something today, you can go and watch it online. And if you want a copy of the slides, let us know afterwards. There is some evaluations that you have in front of you. If you would sign that and let us know if you would like a copy of that, or if there's other workshops or training that you need. We started this program as a follow-up to our Washington County Business Challenge that we do every year. Thanks to the county and towns here in Washington County, we will be starting our 7th year in January, where we have prizes, actually cash money that can reimburse companies starting or looking at expanding. So if that's something that you're interested in starting or growing a business in Washington County, I encourage you to take advantage of that. Now, before I bore you to death and get into the program, it's always good to go around the room and introduce yourself. Even if you're just here, you've never even thought about Airbnb, or you're just curious, introduce yourself, tell us if you're doing one or if it's something you're looking at doing, but that's how we kind of know who's here, and we have that synergy starting. So I will turn it over to Cindy first. Cindy Fields with the Small Business Development Center.
Cindy Fields, I'm the director with the Small Business Development Center. My office is located at Virginia Highlands up on the hill, and I work with businesses in Washington County, Smith County, and also the city of Bristol. So if you are interested in getting a business started or having one that is in existence and you need resources in any areas, I'm happy to work with you.
I'm Dave Smith, and this is my wife Albert, and we're just getting interested in trying an Airbnb, see what it's like.
Okay.
I'm Ben Johnson. I'm taking notes for my parents.
Well, good. I hope they can read them. Or we can get you a copy.
Sabrina Dow, we're thinking about turning 2 rental properties we have strictly to Airbnb.
Great.
Fallon Racetrack, Food City, and I may use this information one day. I'm considering buying a place instead of renting, so just don't have anyone for it.
Okay, and this is because Gary and I are here, just because we're good to Airbnb currently farmers. Okay.
Wayne McLeod, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services here in Abingdon, here personally and also to better advise my clients looking for investment opportunities.
Super.
I'm Kathy Boatwright with the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, and I'm here to see if there's any way that any of our projects could incorporate Airbnb for housing projects.
Super.
I'm Sarah Smith, and I'm just getting information.
Excellent.
I don't know. Use it sometime.
You just never know.
Never know. Never know.
Well, before we go to the back row, we'll start here.
I'm Margaret Jeans, and I'm just curious.
Okay?
Janice Donovan, I do small business bookkeeping, and I'm looking into this for a client of mine who's interested in putting their house or giving a rental property.
That's right. Jean, introduce yourself.
I'm Jean Gallagher, I work here at Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator, and I'm Kathy Lowe's assistant.
I'm Kathy Lowe, Director of Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator.
I'm Catherine Stevens. I'm here today with my husband BJ, and we invested. Well,
He looks very thin.
he is. He has a big personality. At any rate,
Sounds like I was getting insulted.
No.
we invested in a small property that we're interested in the potential for Airbnb.
I'm Gloria Server, and my husband and I have rental property, and we're currently leaving a house, and we're considering Airbnb for that house.
I'm Mary Bolt, and I have a place with a friend, and we've been working on it for 2 years and just haven't gotten up and figured out how the logistics work. So.
And in the back, that's running everything for me today, is Samantha Teeter with the Chamber of Commerce. And is Nita coming?
She's coming.
Okay, Nita will, with the executive director of the chamber, will be here later. And sir, how about introduce yourself and tell us if you're doing an Airbnb or you're just here for information?
They're my only two choices.
Well, you can, if you're one of doing a service, you can go ahead and tell us whatever.
I'm Bill Hall. I'm currently in the real estate business in Bristol. I've got a rental house that's in transition, and I'm trying to decide whether or not I'd rather do this with it as opposed to get the more longer term rental rate. So that's mine.
Excellent, excellent. Just out of curiosity for me, raise your hand if this is your first time ever at an in-knowledge. Excellent, you all have made my day. Well, thanks for coming. Let me share a little bit about who I am and the organization that I represent. Virginia Community Capital, anybody heard of us before? We are a unique organization. We were set up as a nonprofit thanks to the help of, at the time, Governor Mark Warner in 2006, who felt that there was some gap financing needs in Virginia. And he helped us obtain $15 million to start Virginia Community Capital. And we focus on three main areas of business. Impact, which is going out into communities, doing sessions like this, trying to find projects that's going to make a change. For example, anybody been to St. Paul to the Western Front Hotel? That was a project that we were involved in. To try to transform some of our rural communities in Virginia. We also do lending, and I'll share a little bit of the type of lending that we do. And we do investments. We have a whole division that for philanthropists or anyone that wants to invest, maybe put a deposit in, invest in a program that's going to transform your area. We do that kind of investing. We are a community development financial institution, and what makes us unique, when we were started as a nonprofit, and then we added a for-profit bank. We're one of 9 in the nation that's made around us. So that gives us access to some grant funding, which can help in some projects that we can reduce or lower the interest rate or help whatever it may be. That helps us meet that impact to make that loan, help create that jobs, transform that dilapidated building in that town to where it's something that's a flagship. Kind of, again, I keep using Western Front as a reference, but most people know that around here in that change. And we've done pretty good through that initial $15 million investment. Now we've up to a $1.5 billion impact in Virginia in the last 13, 14 years. And I think that's pretty darn good. We do lending. We do everything from real estate, if like a multi-tenant facility. We have done projects where someone wants to buy a storefront, maybe put retail on the bottom floor and put apartments on the upper floors, or to have Airbnb in those upper floors. We do those kind of lending. We also do grocery food access. It's hard to believe in Virginia, but we do have food deserts where people do not have access to fresh foods. And we have an initiative and a loan program that can help farmers, merchants, help that need that's in those communities. We do some solar energy lending, and we also do a number of small business lending. We do debt refinancing, equipment purchase. We can help with franchising, working capital, tenant improvements. One thing, too, that I should note that I think says a lot about Virginia Community Capital and their focus on Southwest Virginia is that we have 3 full-time staff here now. We have a full-time real estate lender, a full-time small business lender, and then myself. We all live here in Abington, Bristol, and the Chilhowie area. So we live, work, and play here, and so we're invested. We want to make sure that the future here is, we're going to make a difference. So if there's ever anything that you need that we can help you with, please let us know. And here's some examples. We're not a micro lender. We typically do not do anything under $150,000, and we can go up to $5.4 million. And we also, if you're going in a location that has historical tax credits, new market tax credits, we can provide some gap financing in those kind of projects too. So whatever your needs are, give us a call. We can say yes or no. Or what we also do, our strong suit, is we find you a partner, a lender that can help you. If we can't do it, we're not going to just close the door and forget about it. We want to make sure that your needs are met. So we're here to talk about Airbnb. How many of y'all have ever stayed in an Airbnb? Did you enjoy it? There's some people that have never stayed there, but that is really growing since it started. It started in 2008, and now there's doing over 100 million bookings. Some people are renting out their entire homes. You remember when the when the races come to town, sometimes people rent out their homes. Well, now they could actually work that through Airbnb to make sure it gives them a little bit more insurance, and I'll share some of those tips as we go forward. Some people have a private room. You're going to hear from someone that here locally that has an Airbnb. She couldn't be here in person, so I videoed her and put her in here, but she had a space over top of her garage and turned that into an Airbnb, and is in a remote part of Washington County. And she's continuously amazed that people are coming and want to be that experience. That's the thing about Airbnb, is people want to come and they want to have that experience. You can go and do the chain hotels all the time, but that's what makes Airbnb different. While we at Virginia Community Capital are focusing on this, tourism is growing here in Southwest Virginia. However, as a developer, there's not enough population density and tourism numbers to warrant them making that kind of investment. And we also, on the other hand, we have people that have inherited homes, or they've moved to another location and they have empty properties that are doing nothing. They're just dilapidated and they're paying taxes. Well, now Airbnb is opening up doors for our communities and our citizens, and it's helping the tourism industry meet a need, because what we don't want them to do is to go to Kingsport or to other parts of the region. We want to keep that value here locally, because the longer they stay in our communities, the more money they're going to spend, and that's what we want to do. So that's why we're focusing on Airbnb. And again, it addresses demand and supply as some of our communities are reinventing themselves. Communities like Hayside, Virginia now has really gotten strongly into tourism, and as I mentioned, the Western Front, and we've got the Spearhead Trails. That's people, you could be going down the street in St. Paul, and there goes an ATV going in and going through the drive-through at the McDonald's. 10 years ago, we would have never dreamed about that, but now tourists are coming and seeing the value and the beauty that we have, and we want to share that. So is Airbnb making an impact in Virginia? Yes. Over 750 guests stayed in 40 Virginia communities last year. This is straight from Airbnb. 7,000 guests stayed here in Washington County. I never dreamed that until I saw the stats. The typical Airbnb supplemental income is $5,500 a year. So that can mean that'll pay the taxes on that property. And maybe give it a little money that you can go to the beach for a week. And Airbnb Virginia host communities earned nearly $104 million in supplemental income in 2018. So that might be something that you're interested in doing. And hopefully, as we move forward, there'll be some tips that, yes, I want to move forward on that. Airbnb is growing not only in the United States, but through Europe, and it's continuing to projected to grow, and you can see that, just that little information for you to share. Typically, again, anybody operating an Airbnb now? Okay. Typically what happens when you set up your properties, and I'll show you how to set up your property on Airbnb. Airbnb takes 3%. Nothing is free in the world. They'll take a 3% commission on every booking. And then they'll take another, there could be 6 to 12% from the guests when they book online to your properties. Why do people like it? Well, when I'm going into community, I'm not having to search the Yellow Pages, which I don't even know where my Yellow Page book is, but searching for properties, everything is there. You're going to also see other responses, feedback from people that have stayed there. If they had a bad experience, you're going to hear about it, but if they've had a wonderful experience, you're going to learn about it. You're going to see the rating of it, any little additional things that they may have. Washer and dryer, which if you're traveling for a week or 2 weeks, that's pretty important than having to find out the laundromat. And when you set up your properties, those are details are the types of things that you want to share, because you never know. You're going to try to find that niche of the traveler that's looking for your space. Now, I mentioned about someone that turned a garage into an Airbnb. This is Eva Belay. Has anybody been to Adventure Mendota? Okay, well, you all need to book before the end of the year a ride in a kayak down the Clinch River. And she has took an idea. They had some property in Mendota. Eva is a winner of the Washington County Business Challenge. But her and her husband retired and decided, we want to do more. And they're turning some property and some beautiful riverfront into tourist destination. But people had to drive. I mean, in Mendota's not just off the beaten path. You have to be detailed. But I'm going to let Eva tell you why she started Airbnb in her properties.
And I live in Mendota, Virginia, and I have an Airbnb there. I've had the structure. It's a standalone garage apartment, actually. So it's detached from our house, and it's been on the property for 15 years. It was a caretaker's cottage at one point. And then in July, I decided to try my hand at Airbnb. I never dreamed anyone would come out to Mendota, Virginia and stay with me. But I thought, I'll give it a try and see. And I was very pleasantly surprised. One of the most fun things about having an Airbnb versus getting that payment after they check out is meeting the people and learning why they come. It wasn't for the same reasons that I thought they would come. Since we have a river outfitter, I thought that I would get guests because they'd want to kayak and stay at my property. And that's happened a few times, but more than likely, they're staying at the property and they learn about the kayaking, which is different than I thought it would be. But the people, they all have different motivations. We're 17 miles from a grocery store, and I thought that would be a real detriment. And it probably is in terms of volume, but a lot of my guests are looking for that out-of-the-way place, that it's quiet. One of my favorite guests was working on a cookbook. She needed to get away from her children and her family, and she came down for 2 days and worked on a cookbook. Another young lady came and worked on her thesis. Other people, they're just motivated to give an opportunity to someone in our area who's trying to do something different. Well, I had a slight advantage because I stayed in an Airbnb, and I noticed what I liked and didn't like. So the first thing I did was I took a long look at my property, and I determined what would be the negatives and the positives. The first thing that I had complete control over was cleanliness, and I cleaned it from top to bottom. I made everything accessible and put notes on where to find things. Instead of just having a bunch of things under my kitchen sink to wash dishes with, I organized them. I put them in baskets. I labeled and made it easy for my guests to find how to scrub a pot, what dish detergent to use in the dishwasher, what to use in the sink, those types of things. I never assume that they're going to know where something is or find something. So I had to take a long, hard look at the whole property like that, focused on cleanliness and organization. The one thing that bothered me, it bothers me in hotels and it bothers me in Airbnbs. Everybody wants to watch TV at night. There's nothing to do generally. You want to watch the news or do something. Learning how to use that remote. And I put very clear remote instructions out. I've got them everywhere because that seems to be a topic that, especially if there's a man over there, they got to have their TV on. So that's one of the things that I did. Just looking at every part of that property and is it clean? What would it look like to a stranger? Trying to look at it with their eyes instead of my eyes. Thinking what would set me aside, because I am in a further location than an Airbnb in Bristol. And in my case, I decided on a limited basis to be pet friendly. Also, I decided to market myself as that remote place in Southwest Virginia and try to turn a negative into a positive. In our case, we had an existing LLC called Rivercliff Farms that houses my Adventure Mendota, the kayaking part. So this just became another leg in that LLC. We did have to talk with insurance companies and get some advice about that, but it just became another part of the revenue stream for Rivercliff Farms. So when Airbnb gives me the money that I earn, it goes right into that and becomes part of our income. The Airbnb, I think the reason they are successful is they do make it easy for the novice. In my case, my delay was I wanted to have the very best pictures. I still don't have the best pictures. I aspire to have better pictures, but that was my delay. In terms of uploading those pictures and writing about my property that I had to offer, Airbnb led me through that process. I could be creative in talking about the property, but they led me through the process. It was very easy, and it's a matter of just sitting down and doing it, and not procrastinating. And then it's so fun when you get your first message, and it's a guest who is interested in staying with you, and they're inquiring about your property, and you realize this really is going to work. Also, the payment processing part, very simple. Airbnb takes care of all of that for you. All you see is that deposit going into your account, which is pretty fun.
So she pretty much did all the workshop for us. I mean, why she did it, how she set it up. We're going to go into more details, but I mean, operating in Mendota, Virginia, and she's amazed every time I talk to her of how often that stays full. And I have consultants coming from Northern Virginia often, and they have no interest in staying in the hotels. They go on Airbnb and find a space. Sometimes they want a 2-bedroom because there's multiple folks coming from the company, but it works out. So basically, how do you do it? You just go to Airbnb and you set up and create you an account. It's that easy. You can then start booking guest stays and then host your properties. And we'll go into some more detail, but you never know how the internet's going to be, so I went ahead and kind of videoed how the steps on how to set up an account for you that hopefully will help you.
Setting up an Airbnb account is very easy. Just go to Airbnb Inc., create an account. You can use your existing Facebook account or Gmail account, or set up your own. I set up a new Gmail account just to make things easier and keep things separated. Just fill in the information, your password, and all the other information that they request.
Now, I may have not been truthful on the age part. Y'all have to just guess about that.
That's your decision. After you've completed everything, just simply get signed up, and you go from there.
That's how easy it is to set up an account.
Of course, they want you to make sure you have read all the information and you agree to their terms. And if you do and you want to proceed, just hit accept. Now, this is where you start populating the information about your property. Is it a house? Is it a room in your home? What type of home is it? There are a number to choose from. Pick the one that best describes your property. And is it going to be the entire home? Is it going to be a bedroom in your home? Again, these are all things that you pick out and decide. Now it wants to learn more about your home, how many bedrooms, how many beds are in each bedroom. All of this information, again, is going to go into populating your account to give potential stayers more information about what you have to offer. And I encourage you to spend time on this and make sure you include everything, because you offer. So take time to make sure you have all of this information completed. Help people find where you're located at. So put your address, but they can find you in searches if they're looking for a location in Grundy, Richlands, Tazewell, Abington, Clifton Forge. Make it easy for you to be found because you're going through all this for a reason. Make it easy. Don't make assumptions.
This keeps going and going, but this is the important part. Spend some time when you're setting up your account to put as much as you can think about your properties, everything to, yes?
Well, I just have a question about the account. You already have an account because you travel with Airbnb. Is that the same account that you set up?
I think you can use it as your host too. You just go to a different section on the site.
So you use your same password you already have?
Yes.
So you put in all this stuff and it goes on their site. Does that mean you should have the rooms available before you?
Yes. And for those that have fixer-uppers, and I think one of the presenters that videos coming up will mention, have it ready that if would you want to stay in it, because you don't want to start out where people are putting bad reviews. You want to get good reviews because those reviews are critical. Because I'm sure for those of you that have booked Airbnb, do you look at the reviews? I rest my case. I should have went into law. But you need to make sure about that. There's three main types of hosts out there. There's folks that just want to make a little extra money, maybe on race weekend or return to Rhythm and Roots. Someone that wants it as a secondary income source. Again, you may have properties that's sitting empty that you're not generating any kind of revenue. And then there are people that make this a full-time job, that they just keep buying properties and keep adding in multiple cities and locations, and that's how they do it. Some are making millions doing this, but they have a lot of headaches because we're going to talk about who's going to clean up after every time somebody comes and get it ready, prepped for the next guest. That's imperative. If you don't have the time to do it, you got to look for a service, or if you've got a cousin or somebody that you know to do that, that's critical. Because, again, I'm finicky when I go to stay someplace, and if it doesn't look clean, freshly made, sheets done, I'll probably just load up my suitcase back up and put it in the pickup and go on. So you have to decide what you're going to make of it. Some major steps in getting started is, first of all, you need to, wherever you're going to be at, in county, town, or city, you need to call the planning department in your jurisdiction and find out all the rules and regulations that they have in those jurisdictions. This is still new to a lot of communities, and they are still creating regulations and so forth. So don't say you don't know and get in trouble. Go do your research. And it can be helpful to talk to folks like Eva or others that are operating Airbnbs in your jurisdiction. But do your homework. It's extremely important. Know the rules. There's some that have limits on how long people can stay. For example, I think it's in Clifton Forge. They have a rule that you cannot stay over 30 days. So there's folks that work at the hospital that have come from different parts of the country. So they'll, every 29 days, they rebook it. So again, you just have to know what the rules and guidelines, and we'll talk a little bit more and show you some examples from other communities as we go forward. So know about that. If you're in a housing development and you have an HOA program or rules that you have to go by, you better check in to see in the fine print if they will allow that.
The information to contact Washington County zoning and Town of Abington zoning is back here on this board. So if you're interested in knowing more about the county and the town, you can get that information off of that.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Yes.
I was working with a client that had a place in Abington, that he was trying to rent it commercially, then it was a house, and he started to do this, and it's kind of like the town of Abington stopped.
The town of Abington, and again, this is where you need to call and talk to the planner, but they do have a 90-day ordinance that over the year, you cannot, rent it more than 90 days. Not
Yeah.
like some communities where they have a limit to how long you can stay. It's,
If you're not in an R3 zone. If your home is in an R3 zone, it allows permitted uses by right, and that Airbnb ordinance does not take precedent. But you have to buy the right license, which is a bed and breakfast license, not an Airbnb license. And that's the difference.
and again, that's why I say you need to reach out to whoever's over your planning at your town, city, or county, and go up through all the details where it's gonna be, because you don't wanna have all that headache if you do it incorrectly, and they shut you down. So, do your homework. Be sure you declutter your space, paring down. I know when I met with Eva, she's got everything all organized, even down to, you know, fresh linens are here. If you need to additional soaps or what have you, she's got everything listed down there. But decluttering, make it look appealing, especially in your photos. That's another thing, make it look tidy. When the visitors come and in photos.
Can you give me a definition of the difference between this and a bed and breakfast?
We'll talk afterwards, because you're gonna, it'll kind of screw up Sandy's home, but I'll talk to you about it after.
Yeah, the ex-mayor, she'll tell you. Some other steps, of the folks that I've interviewed, this was what they all consistently said, that I wish I'd gotten a professional photographer, somebody that knew what they were doing at the beginning, because again, when they're on looking at your properties online, that's their first impression. So you don't want a picture that has dark backgrounds and does not look appealing, and you've got a trash can that's full running over with beer cans and so forth. You want to have it looking attractive. So if you can afford it, I would suggest you hire someone professionally. You know, you can do some great stuff with these smartphones now. They have some pretty impressive, but you got to have it staged correctly. And if you don't know how to do that, reach out. I'm sure that the chamber has some photographers that are members that they know. Look out within your community. But Airbnb in some cities, they even send out photographers. Unfortunately, we don't have that here, but they have done that to make it look good. List your space. Do the inside and out. I like to know if it's going to be a shack. I like to know what I'm driving up to before I get there. So don't just be thinking about inside shots. Look at all around. And you could be great if you did a little video, and then gave the link if you have it on YouTube or wherever where you got it staged at. Now, we heard from somebody here in Virginia. How about another state that's out in the west? Out west, that's been running Airbnbs in her experience.
Start with your own photos. That's what I did in both of my properties. It's okay, but I do notice a difference. I now have professional photos on both listings, and it's not only the quality of the photos as the eye of the guest sees it, it's also that the higher quality is detected by the system of Airbnb and will help in your rankings. But again, no reason to jump in and spend a whole lot of money up front. Particularly, one thing to note is that you will, as a brand new host, receive a bump in the listings, so you're automatically put at the top to promote you. Take the best photos you can, try different angles, show them to friends, see what they think looks good, and pop them up on Airbnb, get a couple of reservations. That helps you pay for those upgrades that you want to do later.
Great, thank you.
I just thought, aren't y'all having aren't y'all having a auction or silent thing coming on tonight?
6 to 8.
I bet you have some photographers that are selling services at that.
Probably.
So, and you want to do a little plug on that?
Sure. With the American Advertising Federation as well. And tonight we've got an annual media auction going on, and it's where a lot of people in the region will get together and sell all kinds of different advertising things. So photography and websites and signage, just anything that they business, and it's an auction base. So most stuff go for about 25 to 35% of what the retail price is. So it's a great way to connect and meet people and get really inexpensive services, products, and things.
Yeah, and there's also a app and a service online called Fiverr, where you can go and find photographers, videographers and stuff online, and they give you prices, and you might find someone here locally that you don't, you know anyone that can help you. But that is important. Again, put yourself in the customer's view. What are they looking at?
The real estate industry now has a number of people that specialize in, and that's for selling homes, and it would be exactly the same type of thing that you're trying to do. So,
Now they're getting really into drone photography.
yeah.
Yes.
For anyone that's interested in finding out more information about that auction, if there's anything you're looking at for advertising, it's just go on Facebook and type in AAF SWVA and search it and find it. It'll tell you everything about where it's at.
AAF SWVA. Got it.
American Advertising Federation, Southwest Virginia, AAF SWVA.
Now it's time to think about your pricing and how much you're going to charge. You know, if you were in Chicago, downtown, you probably get top dollar. If you're in Virginia, you probably will not get top dollar. So you need to look around, do your research, see what, get online and see what others that are near you and what they're charging. That's what Eva did. And see what you can stand, and that's where it's important too, when you're setting up your profile and the information about your Airbnb, where you keep all those details, where you have unlimited internet, you have DirecTV, you have whatever amenities. If you're going to have a higher price, why? What makes you different? And that's where you need to spell it out. And then you also need to decide, are you going to have weekend and weekday rates? And are you going to have rates that if for one night only? You know, that's going to up your cost because that means you have to go over there and clean after each one. Some people prefer, they don't like just a one night stay. They want multiple nights. But you need to decide that when you set that up. You know what I'm talking about. Because it's going to take you more time to have each day is to go and flip that. Change the sheets and freshen it up. So you need to look at that. Also look at opportunities. We're in the middle of the travel season, so can you add a little extra on your charge during July and August, especially when we have events here, when Rhythm and Roots is happening, when the Bristol Race is coming into town, other things that are going on. If you're not following Virginia Tourism Corporation and your local tourism folks, I would follow their Facebook pages and websites because that's how you find out what's going on, especially also your chambers. That's how you can kind of see what's coming ahead so you can start planning and you can start promoting. You don't know what you don't know, you need to go out and find out what it is. And keep your eye on your competitors and see what their pricings and how they change. That's the great thing about having it online now. You can also keep a track of all your competition. Before, 20 years ago, we just had the word of mouth, but now we can see. You can do custom length prices by the number of nights, the number of guests, by your properties. It's all up to you. And also, if there's times where maybe you are having a family reunion and you need your properties for your family that's coming into town, you can snooze your listing on Airbnb so it's not showing up. So you wouldn't want somebody booking and then you have to cancel it. So you have that option within your account. Again, here's Eva telling how she set up her pricing.
I set my rates a couple of ways. I looked at other Airbnbs in the area, and I looked at their property and my property. But I didn't set mine to be the lowest, and I'm not the highest. I think I have a very good value. But I set it with what I could live with. I felt like I tried to be fair, but I did look at what everybody else was offering, and I am a little bit higher in some cases. The reason I allowed myself to be a little bit higher is I do one-night stays. Most people don't. I don't mind that. A one-night stay for me is they come, they sleep, they leave. at the most, I have to spend about 20 minutes over there and get it cleaned up for the next guest. But it's probably somebody that I would not have gotten. And as I'm building my reputation and my business, I feel like that's a good way to do it.
And she lives right there, so that's handy. But again, you gotta keep in mind where your property, does that mean you've gotta drive 20 minutes? Or if you're hiring someone to do that, that's upping your cost. So these are decisions you've gotta make starting out. Again, how do you set your rates? Airbnb actually has on their website some information on the Airbnb guidance market rates. You can also look online at the hotels in your community, what their rates are online, and do your features warrant a higher price? And again, what's working for Eva? She's written that baby out over there. Except for folks where it's straight up steps, she has to put that, give them that information. If they call, she has to explain to them that it's a flight of steps and it's pretty steep. And if you've got a lot of, stuff that you're packing up, just keep that in mind. Something else too that you need to have in your policies that you're putting together is cancellation notice. If someone cancels the night before, that means you've lost money because you're not going to be able to find somebody overnight to take that rental. So you need to have some kind of cancellation policy. Some people are super strict on 30 to 60 day policies. You have to make that decision, especially if it's regarding thinking about policies for larger regional events, again, like Rhythm and Roots, Damascus Days, and so forth. So again, this is your investment in your business, so you make those decisions. I'm just giving you some ideas.
Does Airbnb itself have a cancellation policy that they go by? Do they keep that 3% regardless, or what do they do?
I think it's only that when that money transfers over. Because when you book it, your credit card and information is going through Airbnb system.
Mm-hmm. So that's when they bill their 3%.
Yes.
But then the 6 to 12% additional that they bill, if they cancel, they would lose that.
Yes. Okay. And sometimes it's taken the owner of the Airbnb to get Airbnb company to help them get their money back when somebody's trying to do some kind of lame excuse. They kind of be that go-between, and their decision goes. And if you are a bad customer on Airbnb, they can flag you. Same way if you're a bad Airbnb host, they can flag you on their system. That's why not only you want, as the owner, good responses from folks, good feedback, but as someone that uses Airbnb, you don't want to be known as the person that junked that place or stole all of the towels out, took them with you, So they can watch you that way. And I'll just quickly, refunds and ratings. Again, look at that. How are you going to get, if someone decides they didn't like it or there's some kind of dispute, how your refunds funds work. Again, that's where you can go back and talk to somebody that's been doing one. And there's a lot of resources on Airbnb, the website that gives more details and so forth. Sometimes if you get a bad rating, is that going to be forever on your account? Those ratings change every 6 months. Now that can be a bad thing and a good thing. If you've had consistently high ratings and you are a super host and you have something happen and you get a low rate, you're going to have that for 6 months. Sorry. But that's why, and you'll hear that term as you start researching Airbnbs as a superhost. That's somebody that gets super ratings all the time, and that's what they aspire to be. If you're in a community and you have neighbors, I think the neighborly thing to do is to talk to your neighbor and say, this is what we're going to do. I think if the roles were reversed, you'd want the same thing because your neighbors can make or break that business. If you have someone that's like Eva said that wanted to come and work on her cookbook, and you've got somebody beside of you running a chainsaw that's starting at 6 a.m. or partying all night as a neighbor, would you think she's going to stay there during that whole rental time, Pete? So you need to talk to your neighbors and find out how they feel about it. Again, that's pretty self-explanatory. Now, Airbnb is a software, and you know software has bugs sometimes, issues, so it's up to you as the host to keep a frequent check to make sure all your information is correct, and sometimes that forces you, well, I didn't even put on there that we've got now, I know it wouldn't be CenturyLink, we'll find some other cable company that we know is reliable. Do they even exist? But if you have something, you have an upgrade, you've got a new washer and dryer, or you've got a Tempur-Pedic bed, I don't know what it is. It's your opportunity to make some changes to your account. But keep a watch on it, because again, this is what the folks that are coming to stay with you, what they're seeing. Now, if you've never stayed at an Airbnb and you want to know kind of how it works from a travel, from the tourist side or the customer side, here's kind of shows you how it works.
Loading your browser. Today we're going to book an accommodation or a home as a guest. When you land on the Airbnb page, you have three options. You can either book homes, a place for you to stay, experiences if you want to book an outdoor recreation event or any other experience like a tour, or restaurants. Today we're going to focus on booking a home for this particular tutorial. Start by the place that you want to rent at. We're going to start with Abingdon, Virginia.
This is one of those consultants from Northern Virginia that comes here a lot.
We're going to do accommodations today. There are 91 homes available in that area. You have a lot of options to pick the dates you want to stay at, guests, home type, price, instant book, trip type, and more filters. We'll walk through each of these categories. Start by the dates. These are the 5 days that I'd like to book my property. Number of guests. For the sake of this tutorial, let's do 2 guests, 2 children. You can see that the number of available homes decreases or is very selective depending on what you choose in terms of the dates and the number of guests. The map is a real-time visualization of the properties that are available and listed geographically. Home types. You have the option of either getting an entire place to yourself or a room within a private home. Price is an important consideration. Typically, it says here that the average nightly price is around $198, so I would put my filter at about $200.
And that's based on the location.
Instant Book allows you to make a request to book a place without host approval, without waiting for host approval. I usually like to ask questions of the host, so I don't automatically select this. Your trip type, of course, is for families or for work. This, again, I don't usually fill out. Now, under More Filters, you have a large variety of options. You can look at how many beds or bedrooms you want. I'm going to pick 2 bedrooms, at least 1 bathroom. Some people can pick 2. Superhosts are hosts that have been reviewed quite extensively and are experienced Airbnb homes. If you need accessibility, that is an option as well. You can choose specific home features. Most commonly, these are the different amenities available. Almost all of the homes have them. But if you want something very specific, you can pick it right here. You can choose the facilities that you like, the type of property. Some people like houses, others apartments. And since I have pets, I will choose pets. And you can see now that these are my options for places that I can actually book. Let's start by the first one. This tells you a little bit about the property. You can see Robin is a superhost. It talks about the check-in. These are all the details. I almost always read about the space to get a sense of where this might be. One of the things that she talks about in her place is that it's a very locally, right in the middle of everything, right here in Abington. And if I'm interested and I like this place, again, it has 2 separate bedrooms. One has queen bed and 2 single beds, which is great for a couple and 2 children. It's pet friendly. The dates that I requested are available. And in all of the reviews, she has very high ratings. You can see she's 5-star. I like this property. And in order to book it, all you have to do is hit the book button. This allows you to then book the property that you're looking at.
It's just that hard to do. And again, that's why it's so important that you have all your information in there correctly. And again, all those little things, especially if you're like downtown Abington or other areas, talk about where it's within walking distance. Again, use those tourism sites within your community and your chamber websites, and find out all of those hot buttons that if you're along the Spearhead Trails or some of the others, note that you can within a quarter of a mile you can be up on the trail or what have you. Point out those kind of things. Now, insurance. When you're working through Airbnb, you do come, it does provide some coverage, but I urge you to talk to your real estate or your insurance agent and make sure that you are covered well. Yes, sir.
Was that just booked?
Yes. When he hit the red button, that was booked.
That was booked. All right, earlier you said that there's people that have bad ratings as well as the host. If you got somebody that's got a bad rating,
When
they
he
just booked you.
Yeah, well, when he went down through there, if you saw that it showed that she was a super host, it showed her rating.
Yeah, and I'm talking about the person booking.
Oh.
In other words, I'm a host. How do I disapprove of this person?
Well, then you will get a message from Airbnb that someone wants to book the room, and it'll be who it is, Vivek Patel. And then you can look to see about his profile and if he has anybody that's written him up. I mean, he stayed at Eva place. Yes.
So you do have the ability to
Yes.
cancel it and say, hey, we're not. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're coming onto your private property.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
The way I thought it was booked, and there wasn't nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, but what would happen then, you would get a message just like when you've booked an Airbnb before, then whoever you're booking it with, their properties, then they'll get a message and talk about who you are, and again, where they can ask you questions.
But they are booked unless you go in and unbook them.
Well, you have to approve it.
You have to approve it.
Yes.
And time period?
Well, I mean, if they're coming tomorrow, you're going to have to do it pretty quickly, and
So
the
this is
reason.
something that you're going to have to stay on top of.
Yes, and that's why you want to have a smartphone or some way that you can get those emails that are coming to your devices or tablet that you're monitoring that regularly. Some things that you want to look at too that are not covered, pollution and mold, but again, check with your real estate or your insurance agent and see, get online, look what Airbnb, what they cover, and there might be something worth you adding a little bit more to your existing policy. It's better to be safe than sorry. And back earlier where it showed the number of guests and so forth, and having that insurance is really important, because when I was up in Allegheny about 3 months ago and did this workshop, someone that was there had a bad experience, or someone that they knew had a bad experience. They had a tiny house. And that was when college and high school graduations were happening, and people were booking those Airbnbs just to have a party. That's why you need to check who's doing it. And they had a tiny house and had about 60 people in that tiny house and demolished that. I mean, you know, they're not built for 60 people and so forth. So you need to do your research because you can be taken advantage of, and it's up to you. You don't want to be hindsight. I wish I had. Think these things through. There might be some things that you have a checklist right beside your computer or that you want to ask and look up.
I think when I signed up for my Airbnb account when I was renting places, that there were several steps to go through to verify where you lived. I can't remember exactly what they were, but it would be very hard, like, to fake it. So if somebody locally was trying to rent your Airbnb here locally, that might be a red flag.
Yes, most definitely.
And you know, but based on their profile that's been checked through Airbnb security, where they live, where they're from. It was, I kind of think they might have asked me something like, you know, where were some of your previous addresses?
You look questionable.
Where's your home loan with which bank? I mean, it was pretty detailed to set up the Airbnb account to verify my profiles.
Yeah, that's a major red flag. If someone's booking and they're in the same community you are, zip code,
Yeah.
yes.
I just booked through Airbnb, and even though I've booked through them before, they are requiring that you get a government issue
Yes.
photo.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I had to do.
And
Yeah.
you have to upload it, and they have to confirm it.
Yeah. That's right. Your driver's license.
Yes, your driver's license, yes.
And it's changed a lot over the years just because of bad experiences like the folks up in Allegheny County had. Now, tax collection, I'm sorry.
I just want to give one more example of what you were saying about the guests you don't want. We tried to book a place, my husband and I did, and we were going to have our grandchild with us. I didn't say that initially, but then in back and forth emails with the owner, I told her that, and they actually went in and unbooked us. They canceled our reservation. And I didn't appreciate really the way she did it because she never came back to me personally and, you know, said anything. I just got a phone call from Airbnb telling me that she had canceled our reservation. She didn't feel like their property was safe, you know, for a 2-year-old. And that was fine, and I understood that, but, you know, I wish she had been a little more personable about it. But Airbnb also gave us a coupon for our next booking as a way to compensate for that. But so you can cancel people that you don't feel are right for your property.
Good. If you have some questions about how tax collection happens,
I hear a lot of people say,
here's Bonnie's experience.
Not in my community. My community is set. I'm really fortunate in that I live in areas that, and host in areas that the tourism dollar is very strong and needed. And also that Arizona has passed a law that no smaller government like the city of Williams can say, I can't do Airbnb. So that's really fortunate for me. But I do believe it's really important to be regulated or to be compliant with the regulations that already exist. I hear a lot of people say like, oh, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. But that sort of thing scares me, especially with the investment I have in these homes. I don't want to just suddenly find out one day that not only was I not in compliance with some rule, but I'm also shut down, and what do I do now? So I highly recommend that all hosts contact their local governments and find out what the regulations are and how to comply with them. And it's really not been a big deal in either case for me. Montana is different than Arizona, so I have that experience of working with both. Just to give you an example of what you might expect, Montana expects me to have a fire inspection, just to make sure I have the, fire extinguishers, and also I had to do a health inspection. I had to fill out some paperwork that said what temperature how I'm going to handle laundry, and that I'm washing them on hot and dry and on high heat, that sort of thing. And they actually came in and did an inspection in that home to check that, make sure that everything that I said I was doing was actually happening. Arizona's a whole different ballgame. They just said, here's some paperwork to fill out for your taxes, and go have at it. So, you may find it's on the very easy end of the spectrum. You may find it's a restrictive. Neither of them is really daunting. It's just fine.
But I have found that communities they're still all around Virginia. I know Montgomery County's just changed their ordinances and so forth. So again, check locally and see what their requirements are. There is occupancy tax information. I'm not going to go through all this stuff in detail because we kind of covered it. But when you talk to your local contact, they're going to tell you this is what you're going to be responsible for, and you need to, you're going to be getting a bill for it. And I mentioned some of the localities, what Abington requires, Washington County's transit occupancy costs, Tazewell County. There's even, like the city of Norton has nothing in place right now for Airbnb. So again, you need to check locally to see what they require. I'm going to fast forward through that, look and see what your local regulations are. Again, when you talk with your planning coordinator with the community, they'll tell you this kind of information. Some people have surveillance equipment at their Airbnbs for a couple reasons. Not only to keep watch of their property, but like if someone is coming on a late arrival. One night I was staying in Covington, Virginia, and it was late in the evening, and thank goodness I could talk to her through it was like a Ring doorbell, and she could walk me through how to get there, so that owner of that property didn't have to actually be there. And I have a friend that operates an Airbnb in Bluefield, and he does that as well, but he can verify that they were able to get in okay, that he uses I'll show you the code locks instead of a key lock, where he can change that code between every person that stays, but to make sure they get in and so forth. But if you do have any kind of surveillance equipment, you have to note that on your profile and to let them know. And then you want to promote and how it works on Airbnb, but you also want to do some things locally
In
yourself.
my case, I let Airbnb do everything. You can, and they will give you some advice on if you want to embed your link and do different things. I haven't done that yet. I probably will. But they've done such a good job in marketing that I haven't felt the need to do it. All I have to do really is make sure the guest is taken care of and they have a good place to stay. Airbnb has done the rest for me. If you want to do more than that, I think you could. I haven't chosen to.
I mean, you can always put something if you have a Facebook page that you want on your properties or whatever you want to do. It's up to you.
So you can rent outside of Airbnb. I mean, Airbnb doesn't say you have to be exclusively rented
Now,
through us.
if that property's tied up, though, it would have to be noted on that. You would have to snooze that property.
Right.
Because someone will be booking it online.
Yeah, so how do you do that?
You just walk.
Just lock the days out?
Yeah, and you can snooze your property. I don't own property on that, but there is a place that you can go to that people's told me that you want to snooze your property from this date to this date, which means it's not showing up in searches. Airbnb does some search engine optimizations and some things you want to look at. Again, having that information is important in your profile when you set up that property. Again, if you're going to have a washer and dryer, even a coffee maker, what is it? Is it, can I bring my carrot cups, or what kind of, you got to think of those details. Is it wheelchair accessible? Look at that. And how to get clicked on, according to Airbnb, photo is important, and the title of that. You want to create curiosity in your, why, when the name of it or the first sentence, that's important with anything you're writing. It's kind of like sending an email marketing campaign, is that subject line in that first sentence is key, because that'll keep me looking. And those pictures that you have on there is important. So spend time. This is probably one of the most important things that you do besides getting your property in good order. There's all tons and tons of information up there, out there. I even follow a guy on Facebook as one of those super hosts that has properties. He's one of those multimillionaires that's just using Airbnb, and he has properties everywhere. But you know, they share links all the time or information of tips that they've learned, or I had this issue come up in this community, and this is how I resolved it. So take advantage of resources that are out there that affect your industry, because when you go into this, you're part of the Airbnb industry, and you want to make sure you're following the trends and stay active. It's, again, what you don't know, you don't know. That's the worst thing you can do. And the Airbnb experience.
I don't view my location. I take my location and try to promote it in a positive way, but I don't hide the fact that I am 17 miles from a grocery store. I don't hide the fact that I'm 12 miles from a gas station, because they are looking for what I call an off the grid, an outdoor experience, a place that's quieter, and so they accept that. But I do want to always communicate that ahead of time, because they need to bring their groceries. They can't just run down to the store, because it's going to be a little jaunt. I don't think that's a negative for Southwest Virginia, for folks who are thinking about this, because what's going to set them aside is they're offering a place to stay. If there was a grocery store there might be a hotel there. Probably there's neither. But if you give them a clean place to stay, you have bottled water waiting on them, maybe a few snacks or things like that, and you've told them that they're in a remote area to bring some sandwich making supplies and things, they're all about that. And what we love is people coming out and saying, this is absolutely beautiful. I love the deer grazing in the backyard. Or hiking our property, something we take for granted. They'll say, we want to hike out there. And of course, then I have to tell them what the boundaries are, so they're not hiking on our lands, where our land ends. But Southwest Virginia is beautiful. We forget it. Other people don't. We take it for granted. But when we package it right and people visit, we can take that natural resource and we can add a little jingle to our pocket.
That's what you want, is a jingle to your pocket. Now, you all have a farm. Do you all have riding horses? See, that would be another thing. If you'd have to check on your liability insurance, but that could be another little neat thing. Talk to your insurance agent that gives them that experience. Go trail riding. What makes you different from the one, there's obviously more properties here than I even knew about until I started looking on Airbnb just here in Abington profile. So,
Family that comes and visits from California loves to wake up in the morning and look out and watch the sheep grazing in the yard. They call it farm TV.
Great. Some things that you might want to look at from an investment. Video, audio cameras where you can talk back and forth to your guests. If they're outside your door trying to get in and they're stuck, they can talk to you, or get a Ring doorbell. At least you don't have it inside. Some smart power outlets. My friend David up in Bluefield, he's a professor and has property up in Bluefield. And what he does is when he knows, he uses these smart outlets and has lamps and stuff and stereo hooked into it, so he can, from his phone, just program come on at certain time when he knows his guest is coming, and make the home look, appealing, that they're not going into a dark space, having that, it's all about the experience. And then instead of having to work with keys, people are doing these electronic deadbolts where you can change, again, using your smartphone, your devices, you can change the code, so it makes it easy for people to come in. And Siri must have thought I wanted to talk to her. But you can talk to, so look into some of these things. It might help you, and it's all about that experience. And in some cases, it could save you a lot of wear and tear and aggravation. Again, if it's not right on your property and you have to drive a distance, just having some of these devices can be a lifesaver for you. Some house rules to consider, and this may be where people come in the door, that you have a notebook that lists all of your rules. Not only did you show it online on your profile, but you have it all written out. I think even Eva said that she has little things posted on the bathroom mirror that maybe you need more, you can't do this, but if you need more towels, you can go here to make everything all throughout the house where people won't have to be guessing all the time. They know, but communicate what your rules are to consider. One big important thing is the limits on occupancy, because you need to have that spelled out if you do have somebody decides that they're going to book your space and they're having, and I know my brother's high school reunion is coming up next month. What if somebody decides, well, we want to have people come over and have drinks and so forth? That's not on the, if you have it spelled out, that's not in the rules, and if you find out about it, you can charge them. But you have to have it spelled out first. You need to have self-checkout property, your rules outlined. How do you check out? Check-in guide and check out. That, again, if I'm coming to your property, I'm going to know all this, but this is something you're going to have to sit down and write and make sure you have everything spelled out. And like, don't drive on the grass, drive on the gravels. I mean, it's amazing people that don't think, but you've got to have it spelled out. Is it a gated community? You got to know how the guest can get through the gate. Other things, there might be, if it's a non-smoking property and they smoke, you got to have it, okay, it's going to cost you $200 per day if you're going to be smoking in my property. Late checkout, have a $50 late checkout fee. Get people out of there. If they have to, if it's in a property and there's parking permits, you got to have all of that spelled out. So this is not something you're going to do just overnight. You need to have all of your thoughts and processes and everything spelled out before you move forward on it. Some properties may require pre-screening. In some cases, especially if you're in an HOA environment, they may require that you do a background check on some of your guests. Again, it could be that, you know, you don't want someone that's, well, I'm not going to go into that, but you know, going into a community with a lot of children and so forth, you need to make sure, so you can do that. And then have any kind of retaliation clause that they're booking in goodwill, and if something happens and they were not happy and you took them to task and they try to retaliate against you and put stuff, bad ratings on that, Airbnb is pretty good to help you, but you need to have all that spelled out and know what's ahead of you. In summary, do your homework. That's like any kind of business you're starting, that we do a lot of workshops here, and Cindy does too, and developing a business plan and so forth. You're actually, if you're going to do this, you're starting a mini new business. So you need to have everything spelled out, especially those guidelines and those rules. Don't think have everything spelled out at the beginning. It will save you, because we can speak from experience when we do these business plan challenges, and we think we have those guidelines all in good shape, and then somebody finds a loophole. It might be something you're changing a whole lot, but find out, reach out to your chambers, your tourism developers, your economic developers. One thing too that helps them when they have guests coming into town, you know, find out someone that's over HR or at even Johnson Memorial Hospital. When you get your property ready, you know, some of our major industries, share that information that you have an Airbnb ready, because they have salespeople, trainers, and so forth coming in all the time that can help you. They can give that reference to you. Get your house in top shape before you do it. Reach out to other short-term properties. I'm sure Eva, she's very shy if you know her, but I'm sure she would share all kinds of information with you, and 2 hours later, you will know it. But don't be afraid to ask for help. And I know here in Washington County, in the town, they will all want you to be successful, and we do here. But you're making a business decision, and you want to make sure you're doing it right going forward. So that's kind of an overview of how to set up an Airbnb. Are you all ready for your essay test now? But did that help answer some questions for you? it's, with the system Airbnb, it's pretty straightforward, but you have to do a lot of pre-work before you get going. But any questions? Yes.
Do you have any ideas, like, if you're not on site, so you know, what if there's an emergency situation in the middle of the night, I guess you have to hire someone to address that for you if you're not close enough to the home to do it yourself?
You mean to get the home ready for?
You know what I'm saying, like if they're there and the power goes out, or, you know, the oven breaks, or things like that, or something.
I think
more of an emergency.
from a professional standpoint, I think it would be good to let, you know, you've had an emergency come up, but such and such, my neighbor or my sister or someone, here is their contact information. They can kind of help you, whatever your needs are. I would do that. Again, you don't want that bad experience. And we can't control when the power goes out.
Right. But
You know.
this is a situation where the house is not by any relative or anything else. It's kind of a distance from the owner.
And you might want to have something, that's one of the things about a remote location is, you know, here's report it on, no, you can't report it because you're not the owner on the, I think I would have a contact, alternate contact if something happens.
Someone that could maybe run over there or something.
Yeah, just somebody that may, if anything, just to answer the question for them. Things happen. Any other questions? How many's going to move forward on it? I didn't scare you away. Just do your homework. That's the best advice, and talk to others that are doing it. They've had their hands smacked and butts whooped a number of times, and they can most of the time be the best teacher consultant you can have.
Do you have any access to anyone that can assist? In other words, let's say we think we're ready, but is there anyone that can actually come out and look at what we've got and say, okay, you are ready, or wait a minute, you're not ready?
I don't know of anybody locally, but my friend Vivek, the consultant that stays at Airbnbs all over the world, you know, that's something he did for someone in Norton, actually adjacent to the campus of UVA, was looking at doing Airbnb, and he gave them some tips. When he's coming, I think he's coming into town in September. I mean, I would just say, give me your information, and when he comes into town, I'll say, hey, Vivek, can we drive over? Would you give these folks some feedback? That's the best from somebody that does it all the time, that's been in all parts of the world, from Germany to Italy to all over the U.S. But I don't, see, it's still new here, and I don't know that there's someone that's like a Airbnb consultant, but, you know, it might be something. Where y'all located?
Across the river from Mendota.
Well, Eva.
Well,
I mean, y'all are really not competition because you're offering a different experience than what she does. And y'all can enhance each other's properties.
Ours is old farmhouses that's over 200 years old with thousands of acres. So
Now, you have a different type of experience.
it's different.
Yes?
I think I'm confused about the 90-day rental. I mean,
For
the
town of
maximum
Abington,
Uh-huh. Is that a law?
it's in their ordinance.
I am still trying to get clarification from that. I was on the town council when we wrote that homestay ordinance, and our intention was for it to be a stopgap between what was already allowable uses by right and, you know, these weekend warrior kind of rentals. So we wrote a homestay ordinance, and it had a 90-day annual limitation. R3 residential zones, if your home is in an R3 residential zone, permits tourist homes, bed, and I can't remember, boarding homes and some other wording. There's a little bit of confusion right now as to whether or not, we didn't understand it to be that, but there's some confusion right now as to whether or not that 90 days applies to that R3 zoning. It may be something that, if that is happening, needs to go back to the town council for them to make a clarification. The homestay ordinance at the time was written to capture all those folks that hadn't bought a business license, basically.
Right, right.
And so, inside of the town limits of Abingdon, if you have a home in a historic district, you, as a permitted use by right, can buy a bed and breakfast license, and that has no limitation,
Okay.
I think, on the timing. We didn't think when we wrote the homestay ordinance that it limited the R3 zones. We thought it was going to apply to everything else. I'm told, like this gentleman heard, that the interpretation now is that it applies to everybody. I spoke with the mayor just last week. He did not think that it did apply to everybody. So it could be, if you're having that kind of challenge right now with the town's zoning, that it needs to be something that is set down with the governing body to make sure that they understand what how their ordinance is being enforced. And that's as far as
I think that is what we first ran into, and that's why we kind of, and we also had heard that there's competition between Airbnb and then the established RV bed and breakfast.
Well, it's not that it's competition, and that's, you know, I don't want to tie Abingdon up as the whole thing, but it was not, the homestay ordinance was not written, it was written to prevent folks from getting around the town's
Business license.
Yes.
no, tax,
Yeah,
lodging tax.
right.
How, because Airbnb, unless each local government makes some kind of tax collection deal with them, Airbnb does not collect the tax for you that you have to pay to your local community. That's why it was written. What's being enforced now, I don't know.
Okay.
But I do think that there's a little bit of confusion, and that maybe you need to talk to your mayor
Okay.
and get him to,
Okay.
you know, research it and maybe even put it back on the council's agenda to make some clarifications.
So what you all have seen, how do localities police how many days that you are renting out?
Correct.
For you to know,
And-
how they know how much tax you're.
Well, that was always my argument. If you don't give them a license for quote-unquote bed and breakfast, because the homestay license was just for, like I said, that weekend warrior. My argument always was, if you don't give them a license, you're going to give them an incentive to not report more than 90 days. And so, you know, it would be very difficult to police. That was always my
I will
argument.
say, in some states and communities, counties, Airbnb is doing the tax collecting as you book the properties within that. When you set up, it shows if you're in Blacksburg, Virginia, you're in, you know, it's in Montgomery County. But not all jurisdictions are into letting an Airbnb do that collecting. They're afraid that's not going to be reported correctly, or they're not going to get their money. But in some locations, Airbnb's doing all that.
It's actually,
monitoring it.
like, that's another piece of the ordinance puzzle that the municipality has to go through. But you're right about that, and that's why our council always said, homestay only applies to folks that don't have a bed and breakfast license. You can see Rick Humphreys on the videos time and time again saying, if they buy a bed and breakfast license. Well, there's a little bit of confusion because their bed and breakfast per se is only allowed in historic district. The tourist homes are allowed in the R3 zoning, and I don't know what the town staff has been told as far as licensing, writing licenses is concerned.
I think Kathy was on the right track. Wherever you're at, if it's something you have a question and you don't have a resolution for the staff that's over that, you know, you have elected officials, town council and board of supervisors that we put into office to oversee us as taxpayers. This is when you need to reach out to whoever's serving you and try to get some kind of clarification if you're getting the roundaround. They're there, you put them in office, we need to let them work for us.
I will say this, if a locality can find on Airbnb that you rented for, let's just say you only rented for 90 days and you complied with all the rules, and you didn't report those taxes, I can tell you now that taxes are not bankruptable. They are, you can pay a fine, a penalty. Taxes are the one thing in government that I don't care if you go broke and you're on your deathbed, your estate has to pay your taxes, no matter whether they're local, state, or federal taxes. So, you know, that is something that you got to be real careful of. And, you know, again, I'm not on council anymore. I know what our intent was. I don't know what they're doing to enforce that. And so you really do need to have a conversation with your mayor and your vice mayor of the town of Athens. Stephen Richardson with Washington County, Virginia can tell you all the answers to the Washington County zoning. I'm assuming that Glade Spring falls into Washington County because apparently they don't necessarily have, their own tax system for lodging. So I would contact Stephen Richardson at the Washington County Government Center if you have any county questions. If you're inside the town limits of Damascus, you have to work with the town of Damascus. So, make sure you know those things. We have our next new knowledge is 2 weeks. It's going to be, actually it's on August the 28th, and it's Reinvent Yourself Continuously. Please pay close attention to our schedule of events this year. We have some great new speakers coming, and again, that schedule of events is listed in many places. At the Chamber of Commerce, it's listed in hard copy documents that you can pick up and take with you. It's on the VHSBI website. It's on our Facebook page. Yeah, so if you can't, it's all over Facebook. So, try to pay close attention to our events because they are great. And I'll give you one last little plug. This lady named Jan Hurt is doing a Can't Take It With You sale. She is donating $600 a month for 12 months toward a startup business through the Business Challenge for a startup business that's going to create some late night entertainment. So that's another business opportunity. Pay close attention to, again, VHSBI's Facebook page, Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator Facebook page, and the Chamber of Commerce Facebook page, and the Washington County Business Challenge Facebook page. Always tells that information continuously, so, stay in touch with us. And with that, I will close and thank you all for coming.